Hello and welcome back to the When You're Podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're watching Challengers. This movie is one of those weird, random, it's one of those rare movies where it's like you feel like you want to go. I liked this movie. But the main reason I liked it wasn't because of like what the trailer showed or what they kind of conveyed or what they were trying to like the sex appeal that they were trying to push on me, right? Like, I mean, I guess that's part of it, but another part of it was kind of like I liked it because it made me feel so many different emotions at so many different scenes and moments. Well, I guess that's all movies, huh? I'm just trying to say that I like this movie because there were so many instances where I was like, ooh, I like that moment. And that every single scene just like fit together. There was some back and forth. They do a good job of conveying that and telling you like, okay, this is the past, and eventually you catch up. It's nothing too crazy. Sometimes they go back like a day. Sometimes they go back a week. Sometimes they go back years and whatsoever. So it can all be kind of like back and forth, but at the end of the day, the movie was it was really good. It hit all of the right notes, and it was like one of those films where it's kind of like you could watch it. You could pretty much watch it just about everywhere. I'm not going to say with anyone, but like if you're on a flight and you're watching the movie, yeah, it's a good movie to watch. If you're maybe you're just like I don't know what to, you have like one of those days where it's like I don't know what to really watch, and you're just kind of like, oh, Challengers, this is like a sports romance movie. That's the quote unquote genre that it pulls up on Google when you search up the film. When you search up Challengers, it goes sports romance. So it kind of that's where it fits in. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's one of those. It fits in the sports category, so you can watch Remember the Titans and Gridiron Gang, and then you can watch Challengers. You know what I'm saying? Again, let me go back to. Let me start at the beginning of this whole thing. So I initially went into the movie thinking it was going to be it was going to be like a sex, complete filled, like pining for Zendaya's character in the film, her love and affection, right? It was going to be a back and forth. I thought it was going to be a tennis match between the two guys, and whoever wins essentially wins Zendaya's heart in the film, right? Like that's what I thought. That was my concept for it. And they all kind of have like this, they show it in the trailer. They're kind of like this threesome together. And then it's like, that's where the divide, or like, that's where the relationship really sparks, you know what I'm saying? But then over time, right, it becomes like a rivalry for her. So I was kind of expecting that. That was my expectation going into the film, and it became something completely different. And I'm glad it was something different because otherwise it might be a little tainted. I'm just trying to focus on like that's what I expected it to be, and what it turned out to be was something so. It was a lot better, and it was a lot more interesting. Because sometimes when things go against my expectations, they end up being a lot worse, and then they end up they just suck. They don't do a good job of it. I expect it to be this, and then it becomes something else, and I'm like, I'm disappointed with it. But with this, I had an expectation for it, and then they went another direction, and I liked it a lot more because it was a lot more interesting. So the direction that I'm talking about is quote unquote. It isn't necessarily what's it called? It's not a pining for Zendaya's love and affection and attention. Instead, I guess, well, kind of is, kind of isn't. It's like one character played by oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. I literally remembered his name like 2 seconds ago. what's his name? Mike Faist, who plays Art Donaldson in the movie, and then Josh O'Connor plays Patrick Zweiג. Zweiג? I think it's Zweiג. I'm gonna refer to them as Art and Patrick. So if you know what I mean, if you prefer Mike Faist or Josh O'Connor, you're not gonna get that. But anyways, and initially, I mean, one character, Art, wants to keep Zendaya because they're married in the film. So what I initially thought was going to be like, oh, they're going to get her, is like, well, he already has her. So I was like, okay, so she's married. They have a kid together. They're like, they have a family, a life, you know? And then you see the other half of the coin, which is played by Josh O'Connor, Patrick, who is broke, but he's like a tennis player living paycheck to paycheck, going to different competitions to make money. You know what I'm saying? I think they're both pro athletes. It's just that Art's pro athlete direction has been a lot more successful than Patrick's, you know. So Art has Zendaya, Tashi as his wife, and they all kind of live the good life of tennis, and Patrick lives like the broke, cheap, living in his car, can't do anything other than playing tennis, and he's like one of the best, but he's not where Art is because of I don't want to call it laziness. It's just certain other factors, you know what I mean? I guess dedication, persistence, and maybe coaching. You know, he has Tashi. Art has Tashi as his wife, so they work together at this. But anyways, my point was, it's not them fighting for her, quote unquote, love. Like one of them's already with her. The other one is after her skills as a coach, so that he can become a big tennis star. He can, you know, come back, make a huge comeback, and be one of the number one tennis player in the whole tennis league, or whatever you call it. I don't know exactly the term for it. So the movie kind of takes us back in time to when Art and Patrick were in high school. They were about to go to college. So they're like at their final end of high school, I guess, and they're playing in like a junior tennis tournament league. And that's where they meet Zendaya's character, Tashi, and they kind of have like a hello and a meet and greet, or like a, hey, it's good to see you, good job at your match, and blah, 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 right? And then they kind of have like this little rivalry to go on a date with her or whatnot. And that's where the whole, you know what I mean, hotel room, make out, you know, kind of threesome scene. I'm putting quotations up, but that's where the whole scene kind of takes place. And it's not what you think. It's just like you know what I'm saying? But it kind of is. It's spicy enough to like sit in your tongue, but it's not like super hot. You know what I mean? Like how can I describe it? It's like they got the hot ones flavor. It's like somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of there, but it's not like crazy. Oh well, it's a little less than there, but it's kind of like maybe like the fourth sauce on the table. You know what I mean? It's like it's getting hotter. You can tell that the spice is getting there, but it doesn't go past it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't go all the way through. Anyways, after that, Patrick and Art have this early rivalry. So that was the rivalry for Tashi's affection and love and quote unquote her idea of like somebody to date. You know what I mean? That was then. And Patrick wins, played by Josh O'Connor. Okay, done with the names. Played by Patrick. I mean, Patrick wins. He beats Art in the tournament, and he takes Tashi out on a date. And then there's kind of like a Art is kind of talking to Patrick about it, or they're like dating or whatever. Tashi and Patrick are dating now, and Art's a bit jealous, and he's kind of like, "Hey, man, I just gotta know, dude. Did you sleep with her? Did you know what I mean? Did you guys do anything together?" And Patrick's like, "Bro, like you gotta chill. You gotta just relax and stop wondering about my girlfriend." And then he's just like, just tell me, come on, just let me in. Like you can tell me, you can be honest with me. And Patrick's like, "I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not. That's not who I am." And then Art is like, "Just give me a sign, anything, any kind of a sign." And they're about to do like some practice, a practice tennis match against each other. You know what I mean? And Patrick gives him a signal, and the signal is Art's tell. Art has a tell before he serves, which is he puts the tennis ball at like the base of the racket. There's like that little triangle hole at the bottom below the racket, and he puts it there, and it's kind of the signal of like, "Yeah, we did it. And then Art is like, "Oh, snap." So they kind of have this like cool moment, and I like those little moments between the two of them. I really like the scenes where they have such a good chemistry, the Mike Faist and Josh O'Connor, where it felt like genuine friends. And it helped because it really helped the connection between the two of them when I was watching, because I haven't really seen Mike Faist in anything. I know he was in West Side Story, but I didn't really watch that. So I didn't really see him in anything else since that. Well, that's the only thing I know him from, or like I have relevance to what he's been doing. And Josh O'Connor, I had no idea. You know, I've never watched. Apparently, he's in the Crown, or it's one of those British royalty shows. I can't. I think it's The Crown, but he's in that show. I don't know if he's like a regular, if he's like been on the show. I don't know if he gets killed off. I don't know what happens with him, okay? All I know is that's like the show he's from, and then this is the only movie. That's the only reference I have of him, okay? But this is my first time seeing him act or perform, so. And then Zendaya, I know. Zendaya, I've watched on Euphoria and Spider-Man, and, you know, she's just a well-known figure. Anyways, watching them two interact and connect and talk was so interesting, because it's the development of a friendship over years and years and years. You know what I mean? And there are certain moments where it's like they started out like best friends, and then they kind of got split apart, and they each had the same profession, but they each went different routes. And because of that, and because they went different places and did different things, they kind of slowly went their own ways, and they never really, I mean, they may have crossed paths here and there, but it's just kind of like looking at it as no matter how much time they spend apart, they still have like that connection. So when they do meet, like they do for this this tournament, this like little challenger, for this little tennis tournament here, it's kind of like, oh, you know, they still have that history, they still have that bond, that connection, that same kind of friendship, but they still have that unique pull to each other, I guess, is the word. So anyways, back to Patrick and Art. They were in college, and Tashi and Art go to the same college, I think in Stanford. And essentially, Patrick and Tashi are having an argument because they're talking about... The argument comes about because of Art, who pushes a wedge between the two of them, kind of planting the seeds for him to take Tashi. He's telling Tashi, "Oh, Patrick, he's not the relationship type of guy. He just, you know, he doesn't really want anything serious, or he's not somebody who's going to be able to love you," and blah, 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 blah. And Tashi's like, why do I care? You know what I mean? He's mine. Is he doing anything I don't know about? Is he having sex with other co-eds? What's going on? What are you talking about? And Art is like, no. So she's like, well, then get off my case. Like, leave me alone. You know what I mean? And then he's telling Patrick, they're like, yo, Tashi doesn't really love you. Like, she thinks he's coming in between them. So that way, I guess he could get Tashi. It's kind of, he's a snake. He's a real snake. But it's funny because things end up going his way, but not in the right kind of way, So they have this big argument before Tashi's tennis match, and that's what ends up getting Tashi into that big injury. And that's what puts her off to the sidelines. Because that was like the big deal in the, when I saw the trailer was kind of like, oh, she gets injured and then she's out of it. You know what I mean? And that's why the two guys are fighting against each other to win her over. Whoever's the better tennis player gets her love and affection. That was my idea. That was my concept. That was what I thought. But it ends up being different. Anyways, she gets injured and then she blames Patrick, or she's like upset at Patrick because like, I would have been in the right headspace if we hadn't had the argument and I wouldn't have injured myself. And then Art is there and he's like, Patrick, this is all your fault. That pushes them away from each other. Cut to a few years later, I think Art is getting ready to go pro. I don't know if that means he graduated from college or it's like is getting ready to like get out of college and just go pro. I don't remember exactly, but obviously Patrick and Tashi broke up, and they went their own separate ways. And Art tells Tashi, hey, I'm going to go pro, and I could use a great coach by my side, and I want it to be you. And Tashi's like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And then they have this this very sweet kiss outside by the car, and it's like, it's just a cute little kiss to confirm that their relationship, like, we're dating now, that was the thing. So then it just kind of cuts to now, I guess, and it tells us Art and Tashi are together. They got married. They're, she's coaching Art to be the best pro athlete in tennis. But currently he's sucking. He's not winning his matches. He's losing, and she can't have that. He needs to be number one. He needs to be the best. And it's all kind of a projection. She's living out her dream of tennis through Art because she has her injury now and she can't play like she used to. But we realize that Art wants to retire and quit tennis. I don't remember how old they are, but he's got to be like 30, 32, 33, something like that. He's not like old, but he's definitely like old enough where he could very well, I guess, quit or retire and find something else to do in the field. I honestly don't know. I don't know what the proper age, what the right age range is for like tennis players. I imagine they're the same as any other pro sport, but I'm just trying to think like, okay, you get out of college maybe at 22 years old, you go pro afterwards for maybe 10 years, quote unquote, give or take, right? So I would think he would be 32, 33, something like that. And he's like, hey, I've had a good decade-long career. I'm kind of over it now. Let's, we have our daughter, and I could do something else. I could be a coach myself. Something like that, right? Something not too crazy. And he wants to quit. And Tashi sets him up on this challenger on this nothing tournament, like this low level tournament for like $2,000, so he can get his confidence back or like get a winning streak going. Like he's gonna beat everybody there. Like that's her assumption. Is like, I'm gonna put you in a low level challenger. You're gonna beat some of these other people. You're gonna get your feet moving under you. You're gonna win, and then you're gonna go to the U.S. Open or whatever the big tennis tournament is, and you're gonna win it, and you're gonna have your confidence back and your drive again. So that was her idea. But they weren't counting on Patrick being there. And Patrick is your down on his luck, living no paycheck, no money, living in his car, barely making ends meet. He's starving and hungry, and he's like borrowing food off of others. That was a scene that I was like, oh man, you know, he was looking at like this woman's egg sandwich and takes her egg sandwich, like half of it, and then he like sips her coffee or whatever, and he's just trying to survive. And there was something so beautiful and relating about it. It was just funny to see, even though he is struggling. But I was just kind of like, he's making it happen. And he's in the challenger because he needs the money, you know. So then there's this moment where Tashi's at the hotel before the challenger. And Patrick happens to go there on a date so he can have like hook up with the girl he's going on the date with, and then he can have a place to sleep for the night and then do the challenger the next morning. So anyways, he bumps into Tashi and he has a proposal for her. He says, listen, Art is not what he used to be anymore, okay? He isn't, you know what I mean? He's not number one anymore in the tennis league. He wants to retire, and you need somebody better to coach. I'm the better someone to coach, okay? You take me, his pitch is, you taking Art to the U.S. Open doesn't change anything. Like if he wins, great. He was supposed to win. He's the top tennis player, okay? If he loses, that's even worse because he's the top tennis player. He lost. He's back at the bottom. You know what I mean? And he's going to retire on that loss. He wants to quit. So then Patrick is like, or you take me and coach me. If I lose, hey, I wasn't supposed to be there anyways. But if I win, you're the coach that put Patrick Zweig at the top of the top. And there can be no denying that it's because of you. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a very interesting proposal. It's a very good deal. And then, you know, obviously Tashi smacks him in the face and, you know, gets mad at him and saying is like he's a loser and whatnot. And then Patrick very confidently and very clearly states that, hey, I'm going to beat him tomorrow. I can beat him. I have beaten him, just like how he beat him before to get a date with Tashi is like, hey, I can win and I'm going to win. And when I do, it's all over. You know what I mean? So think about it, put it together, see what you think. She kind of takes his number and walks away. Then she's talking to Art, and Art says everything that Patrick was saying. He says, I want to retire. I want to... Essentially, he's like, I'm done. I'm done with tennis. You know what I mean? And Tashi kind of tells him like, if you lose tomorrow, I'll leave you. And then it's over for us. And Art is like, oh no. He's like kind of like sad and upset about it. So for him, it is personal. Like he wants to keep Tashi by his side because he loves her. But Tashi's in love with tennis and Patrick wants to get on top again. So then, and throughout the whole movie, we see the match between Patrick and Art. You know, the whole match. And they do some amazing shots. They do the one from the perspective of the ball, like the camera moves, and then they hit the camera, and then it just... I love that moment where it's like, it's very dynamic and cool. And then you see them like match over, and then they go away and they like have a snack, or like Patrick's eating a banana, and then the other guy's like drinking this pink water, and then Patrick's like drinking a Coke and whatnot. Like it's very relatable, but it's also like there's so much tension between the two of them, and it's just like everything that they do, every eye contact, every moment is just so powerful and dynamic. So then eventually Toshi in the middle of the night is like, gosh, I just told my husband that I'm going to leave him if he doesn't win tomorrow. I have to... Essentially, she's kind of like, I have to figure out how to protect our future. And so she calls up Patrick and is like, hey, meet me outside the hotel or meet me at this spot or whatnot. And Patrick picks her up. They drive around for a little bit. And they get into this argument about like, essentially, Toshi wants Patrick to lose so that Art can win and get his confidence back up. And Patrick's kind of like, well, whoop-de-doo, like, happy for you. I'm glad to help you out, but what do I get out of this? Like, I don't get the money from the challenger, okay? Your husband beats me. I'm still broke, and, he's still going to retire. He's still going to quit. He's still going to be a loser. So then they get into this heated exchange, and then, wouldn't you know it, she gets mad at him, and she doesn't smack him. She spits on his face, okay? And then she's kind of like, there's this moment parallel to when she kissed Art, where it's all like calm and sweet and cute, and it's like, oh, that's a cute relationship, you know what I mean? And then to contrast that, there's Patrick, and it's all windy. There's trash in the air. It's crazy. And then she kisses him. They start going at it, and then they get into his car, and they do what they do. And essentially, that was supposed to be like, I don't know, Toshi's payment of like, you're going to lose tomorrow. And Patrick's kind of like, we'll see. We'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? So then, throughout the movie, we kind of see like these back and forth moments. And this isn't the first time that they've hooked up. All right. They hooked up in Atlanta 6 years ago before this challenger. And that was around the time that Art and Toshi got engaged or newly married or whatever. And they smash then too. So this is years of infidelity, of cheating, you know what I mean? And eventually, at the day of the challenger, it's like their last match or whatever, and Patrick kind of does the signal to tell Art, hey, I hit your wife. I was with your wife last night in my car. You know what I'm saying? And then Art is kind of like, what? No way. And then it's kind of like a big shock to him. He's like, no shot. And he's like, yep, it happened. And then that's kind of like, that's what pushes both of them to be them again. To be in the know. And then finally they kind of do this end sequence where Art and Patrick are like at the net. Art jumps over, and then they kind of hug it out, you know what I mean? And then Zendaya's like, come on! Because she wanted to, like, watch some good tennis or whatever, so, like, that was a good match. And the movie ends with nobody really, no decisive winner. And that was made by design. The director, Luca Guadagnino, says, like, it doesn't really matter who wins. It's just a matter of, like, that's the moment where they all kind of know each other best, you know what I mean? Toshi's watching some good tennis like she always wanted to. Art and Patrick are friends again, and they're able to challenge each other as equals, So then it's all up to interpretation, you know. Who wins or who loses doesn't really matter. It's up for us, the audience, to really decide. And for me, you know, I gotta be honest here, okay? I'm gonna be really, really honest. Who do I want to win this match? I want Patrick to win. All right, Patrick is the man. That is my guy. That is the hero of this story. All right, the broke nothing tennis player playing against one of the top tennis players in the whole world, who happens to be his former best friend, who's married to his former girlfriend and smashed his wife last. I mean, can you just hear me out on this, okay? He's smashing his wife, okay? He's in the top percentage, like he's the top tennis player out there. He's just, you know, not at the top, you know what I mean? And then if he wins, he gains everything. He gets the money from the challenger, and then he gets Tashi as his coach, hopefully, right? That would be my hope, is that he would get Tashi as his coach. He would play the US Open. He would win, obviously, because he just beat Art. And then he would, you know what I mean? I wouldn't think he would be with Tashi after that. I would just think that he now has something, you know, some credibility. He's a winner of the tournament, you know? I kind of like that underdog story. Whereas Art, yeah, he loses Tashi, but, you know, she kind of cheated on him multiple times, and she's not really all that passionate or loving about him. You know, she's kind of like, if you could spend so much time with somebody, being with them for so long, and then when they decide to quit the sport that you love and just decide to leave them, when you have a child together, it just kind of, you know, it bothers me. And there's some speculation that the child might be Patrick's, because they hooked up in Atlanta. The daughter's like 6 years old. 6 years is kind of like the difference between where they are now and where they were then. They were just newly married. It could be, right? Well, I'm not saying it is, but that is a possibility. But, you know, I don't know. Anyways, Patrick, I mean, he gets the most. He gets the best deal out of this. There's so much of a brighter future ahead for him than there is Art. Art gets to keep his wife. Yay. You know what I mean? Like, he has money. He doesn't gain anything. Patrick gains everything from this, from winning this match, okay? He beats Art, which he's already been capable and shown to do. He hooked up with his best friend's wife. You know what I mean? He checks all the boxes. I don't see how anybody can make a case for Art to win. Like, why do you want to see him win? He really loves his wife. His wife cheated on him and chose another guy because he won a tennis tournament. Like, that's not, you know what I mean? That's not what you go for. But she stood by you because you were good at tennis. And now that you want to leave tennis, it's like all of those years spent together were kind of like nothing to her, so to speak. So it's just kind of like I don't see anybody making a real case for Art. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, Art and Tashi really only had sex once. You know what I mean? Like, you can't convince me they had anything more than just one time. Whereas Patrick, 3 times just alone in this movie, okay? The first time when he won the tennis match and took her out, all right, that was the first time, and he kind of signaled to Art that, yes, they hooked up. 2 was in Atlanta, 6 years before the Challenger, and then the night before the Challenger. I mean, come on. He's top dog. I think Josh O'Connor did an amazing job with this character. He blew me away. He is completely fantastic. He's definitely somebody I'm going to be looking for in all of his past works that he's done in future jobs. I was completely impressed with his performance. I thought he had so many great lines and delivery. delivery moments where it was like every scene that he was in, he dominated. From his scene with Tashi to his scenes with Art when they were in the sauna together. They have this dialogue together, and Patrick has this. I don't want to say menacing. It's just kind of like he fills up this room with the space with his acting. You know what I mean? His character is so out there, whereas I feel like, I guess Mike Faist's character Art doesn't really take up the space as much as Patrick. Patrick just, he fills up the room. You know what I mean? When he's talking to Tashi, he fills up the room because he has tension and he has something to say. When Art speaks, it kind of feels like he's reacting to something, right? He's secondhand. He's responding to somebody else's words. So he didn't win the He didn't win the tournament at the beginning. So now he's trying to break up. It's all a reaction based. He's never actually out doing his own thing. It's all out of a reaction. You know, Patrick dated Tashi first. Now Art wants Tashi, so he breaks them up. And then he gets with Tashi instead of getting another girl, right? And then Patrick wants to win the U.S. Open, and he kind of wants to quit. He's kind of just like, I just don't relate to his character as much. You know what I mean? I don't relate to his character because he's at the height of his career. He's the number one pick in tennis. You know, he's lived the good life. He's doing brand deals. He has his wife, a daughter. He's living the perfect life, so to speak. But on the inside, he's miserable. He doesn't want to do tennis anymore. His wife is going to leave him if he doesn't keep on playing. But Patrick, dude, that guy's the man. I didn't know who to root for, but then I was kind of like, I was trying to figure out like, okay, where's the bad part about Patrick? What does he really do that's bad? Nothing. Whereas Art, you know what I mean? You can kind of make a case that like he broke up Patrick and Tashi, and if he didn't, he's really responsible for Tashi's injury, you know, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't care. Honestly, this whole situation could be resolved if Patrick and Art just went their own, you know, got other girls, you know, or got together themselves. But whatever, you know, it is what it is. And people keep making the case that like Tashi loves tennis, Art loves Tashi, and Patrick loves Art. But I kind of feel like there's some stuff against that. I think Tashi likes Patrick a lot more than Art because Patrick is quote unquote. He says it himself in their argument. He kind of says that like they're equals, they're peers. You know, they're tennis peers. She's the best female tennis player. He's the best male tennis player. They are side by side, so to speak. And I guess Art has always felt, I don't know, inferior to Tashi. Like he needs her to hold his hand in order to do stuff. Not that Patrick is like, doesn't, but it's more so like, it's a beneficial gain, you know? She's been doing this tennis stuff a lot longer, so she knows how to like get Patrick back into it because right now he can't get back into it. I don't know. It's too much stuff, but overall, Challengers the movie, throughout it gave me so many emotions, highs and lows, and I was just kind of like, I don't know, I felt like it was really good. I responded well to it, more than I thought I would. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll talk to you guys all next time. Thank you.